Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you're calling in from. We're going to get started with the webinar in just a couple minutes here at 11:30 Amsterdam Central European Time. So, as you are waiting, feel free to just find a quiet space where you might not be disturbed for the next 30 minutes before we go into our breathwork practice. And let us know in the chat where you're calling in from. Let us know if the audio quality is okay. Excited to get started.
Awesome. Actually, what might make sense is for me to quickly share my story because it's quite different from yours, why I got into breathwork. So by the time everyone is here, we can kick off officially. So basically, I used to be really sick a lot when I was a child, in my teenage year, in my early 20s. And just catching a flu, catching a stomach bug, a fever, basically with the flu season coming, I always got staying home. And in the beginning it was super fun to skip school as a child because you didn't have to study. But after a while I realized that I miss hanging out with my friends, I miss being part of a community just because my immune system was so weak. And thanks to the help of my parents, I tried all different things like vitamin therapy, light therapy, of course, beyond the traditional medicine methods, and nothing really made a difference. So when I started practicing breathwork, I realized after a few years that the very first time I had to take sick leave was because removing my wisdom teeth. And I realized it because I didn't even know how to do that in the Netherlands. How do you go to your GP? How do you take sick leave from your company? And this small incident showed me that I haven't been basically sick since I practice breathwork regularly. So that is my story about why I got into breathwork. And with that, I'll pass over the microphone to Cole.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today for World Mental Health Day. So thank you all for taking the time to come and join us on such an important day. This is something that is quite close to my heart just due to some of the struggles that I faced with mental health throughout my life. So it really brings me a lot of joy to be able to share some of these practices that we're going to share with you today. My name is Cole Groom, and I have here with me
Jean Barsabo, and we are both co-founders of Balanced Breathing.
Exactly. And so, this is something that we are excited to bring to you today. We're going to do a short breathwork practice and tell you a little bit more about how breathwork can help your mental health.
And as part of the introduction, what we would like to share with you is how our personal story actually led us to teach breathwork to roughly 5,000 people within 1 year. So you'll hear a bit of story about balance. Then you will learn about the physiology, about stress, why we are stressed and how it impacts our body, and how breathwork could be the solution. We'll spend most of our time actually practicing some simple tools, breathwork techniques that you can also apply in your own life. And in the end, we'll invite you to share your experience, possibly with your colleagues, because we identified corporate breathing workshops as the way to involve as many people with breathwork as possible. So how we got started with breathwork, we each have our personal stories. And one day we had the idea to share this story with our friends. So we started organizing breathing workshops in parks in Amsterdam, initially with 5, 20, 30, and at one point we had 60 people coming to our breathing workshops. And they said, hey, I think our colleagues could also benefit from it, because when I look around my office, I see people being under pressure, struggling with stress, anxiety, and mental health in general. So we started organizing breathing workshops about a year ago to companies coming to their offices just for 30 minutes during lunch break and sharing these simple tools with employees and also online so people can join from home. Then we started expanding a little bit. We now host yoga sessions either in parks or in the office spaces. We help people experience cold exposure in the form of ice bath. And about half a year ago, we also entered our first festival experience, going to the Extrema Festival in Belgium. So festival goers also could find a safe space to take a few minutes of their time to appreciate mental health. And over the past 1 year, we've been working with roughly 50 companies who promote breathing workshops within their environment, either online or in person, just as a 30-minute, let's say, lunch break reset. And what we also noticed is that there is no specific industry that benefits most from breathwork. We work with tech companies, consulting companies, insurance companies. So basically, in any spectrum, there is the presence of stress, which is part of the work life on a daily basis. And now Cole will share a bit about the physiology behind breathwork.
And so, one of the reasons that we decided to focus on the corporate space is because it's a place where people are being stressed. It's one of the biggest stressors that people experience in their life very often is related to their work. And that is quite well represented in some of the statistics you see in the research about employee stress, with over half of employees dealing with stress daily. And what is the result of all of this stress building up in the workplace is what you see with burnout being on the rise and burnout becoming more common. Maybe this is something that you might have experienced personally. Maybe I'm sure there's somebody you know who has been burned out, either at your company or from your friends or from your family. And it is a really helpless feeling. It's very difficult, and it's starting to affect more people, and it's a human issue because we want our friends, our family, our colleagues to feel good, but it's also becoming a business issue because we see the really high costs associated for organizations when there is sick leave, when there is absenteeism, when there is burnout. And so that's why we decided to focus on the corporate space, because we saw this as an opportunity of where we can have the most impact of sharing these practices of breath work, meditation, and all these other well-being practices that we like to promote. And what I think is important to highlight is, well, why is stress bad for you and what happens to the body when you actually get stressed? And so stress is something that either comes simply from a thought or it comes from an external trigger, but it has a physiological response in the body. So what happens is that your muscles tense up, your blood pressure increases, your heart rate increases. And this comes from more of a biological response, an evolutionary response in the body. And it's part of a nervous system response. And you might have heard this before, the difference between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, or more commonly known as your rest and digest response or your fight and flight response. And so this stress response is part of this fight or flight response in the body. And it goes back to putting yourself into a heightened state of awareness so that you're able to, let's say, maybe escape running away from a lion on the savannah. That's why also when you're stressed, when there's pressure, you can also perform really well. Stress is not always a bad thing. It's not something we want to completely eliminate from our lives. But the problem is, in the modern day, we get stressed from so many different areas, right? We're no longer necessarily having to run away from lions on the savannah every day. We get stressed out from a message from our boss. We get stressed out about a deadline, things that are not necessarily life or death scenarios, but they are putting our body into this feeling of a life or death scenario. And what happens is that people become chronically stressed, because this is a circular pattern of where, when the body becomes stressed, it releases adrenaline and cortisol into the body. And once the body picks up on those chemicals, it keeps this circular feedback loop going. And what can be very difficult for people is to break this cycle of being stressed, how to really trigger this parasympathetic nervous system response, this rest or digest part of the body. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how breath work can help to be the tool to break that cycle of stress and be able to put yourself into this restful state when you need it, when you choose to. Because there is a lot of negative consequences associated with chronic stress. It has a much higher rate of heart disease from people who are stressed all the time, but it also weakens your immune system. Maybe you've noticed this yourself when you're really stressed out, how easy it is for you to get sick, or maybe you notice it from people that you realize at work who are really stressed, how often they're taking sick days. But more than just the physiological impacts, stress has a really big impact on your mental health. And having a lot of stress can be very often linked to anxiety. It can trigger depression, but it also allows you to not function at your best. You're not going to have your best concentration. You're not going to have your best memory. It's important to very often operate from a powerful and from a relaxed state. This is something that happened to me. I used to struggle a lot with anxiety and with panic attacks. It started as something social, but moved into something that was part of my professional life as well, due to the stress that I was facing working in tech sales. And luckily, breathwork was one of the tools that helped me to take control back of my life, because the reason why breathwork can be such a powerful tool is because of where the breath and breath work sits inside of the nervous system. And so in the body, you have two different types of processes. You have autonomic processes. These are automatic processes that you have no control over. So these are things like your heart rate, your blood pressure, your immune system response. You can't choose how high your blood pressure is, but you do have bodily functions that you can control. I can choose to raise my right hand. I can choose to look up at the ceiling, and I can also choose how I breathe. However, most of the time during the day, we never have to think about how we're breathing. It happens automatically, but I can also control it. And this is where breathwork becomes really powerful, because it's the bridge between what's called the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. So by controlling how we breathe, we can start to have an influence on these automatic bodily processes, being able to change our blood pressure, being able to change our heartbeat, being able to stimulate our immune response. And that's what we're going to play around with a little bit in today's breathwork practice. And so a few of the benefits of breathwork, we talked a lot about how it can put you into this restful state. It also helps to improve your circulation and your blood flow by improving your blood chemistry, making sure that you have optimal levels of oxygen and of CO2, and also reducing your stress and cortisol levels. There's a lot more benefits than this, but we're short on time today, so I wanted to keep it to that. And mainly what I want to do today is just share the practice of breathwork with you all. And so before we get started, first I would invite you to find more of a quiet space for the next 15 to 20 minutes where we can practice this breath work together. But I would also love to hear from the audience, just how are you feeling today? I believe there's a chat here on the live stream. So maybe just share kind of how you're feeling right now before we go into the breathwork practice. And then we'll also ask you to share again afterwards and see if this practice actually was able to have an impact on the group that we have with us today. And with that, I want to slowly move us into the breathwork practice, where if you want to find a seat, I'd invite you to sit with your feet grounded into the floor, to find your sitting bones rather than your glutes. So seeing if you can sit upright, seeing if you can sit with your chest tall and proud. Then you can rest your hands down in your lap or along on your side. Then I would also invite you to either bring your gaze to the floor, close your eyes if it's comfortable for you, as we slowly start to bring our awareness to our breath, turning our attention inward for the next 15 to 20 minutes. No need to breathe in any special way just yet. Just noticing, how does your breath feel for you today? Where do you feel the breath going into the body? Breathing in and out through the nose. As we slowly start to deepen our breath, drawing our breath down into our stomach, our belly breathing. I invite you to bring one hand onto your chest and another hand onto your belly, just using this physical feedback as a way to notice where the breath is flowing in your body today. And as we inhale, we try to fill up the belly, expanding, pushing away the hand on our stomach. And as we exhale, feeling the belly deflate like a balloon, falling away back towards the spine. Just creating this wave-like movement of the breath, in and out on each inhale, filling up, expanding. And as you exhale, feeling the belly fall away towards the spine. And as you start to activate this belly breathing, noticing how your inhales might become just a little bit deeper, how your exhales might become a little bit more controlled, a little bit longer. Seeing what we can do to keep our focus and our awareness on the breath, disconnecting from any of the busyness of the day so far. Whenever you might notice a thought coming into your mind, just gently correcting yourself, guiding your awareness back to your breathing. You can even repeat to yourself as you're inhaling, I am breathing in silently in your mind. And as you exhale, repeating to yourself, I am breathing out. Just a simple tool to keep the mind fully occupied and focused on our breath, which also helps us to connect with the present moment, being here and now. Breathing in and out through the nose as we do our last rounds of belly breathing before we move into our next exercise, where we'll continue to use this belly breath. So remember this pattern.
In the next exercise, we'll practice a 4-7-8 breathing exercise, also called Anulom Pranayam, where we'll inhale for 4 seconds, hold our breath for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. And this is a technique you can apply before a stressful presentation, meeting with your boss, when you want to calm your nervous system, be present, and reduce your cortisol levels, your stress hormone. So to sync up our breath, breathe out in this moment, exhale to empty the lungs, and through the nose, take a breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, releasing any tension you might have built up throughout the day, 7, 8. Inhale with the relaxation, filling up the belly and the chest. Holding, relax your shoulders. 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe out, extending the exhale, small bits and pieces of air, leaving your lungs through the nose. Inhale to the bottom of your belly, fill up your lungs with the relaxation, and now hold. And observe where you might be still holding on to a little bit of tension. And now on the exhale, release that tension. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A few more rounds together. Breathing in. Hold. Breathe out. Inhale. Hold. And exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just do 2 rounds in your own time with the 4, 7, 8 pattern. And whenever you finish your last cycle, just stay there for a moment and observe how your mental state might have shifted just with a few minutes of conscious, deep belly breathing.
You can keep your eyes closed, keep your awareness on your breath as I explain our third and final exercise for today's practice, where we'll start to wake the body up a little bit, bringing ourselves a little bit of energy to go into the rest of our Friday, where we're going to do equal length breathing. We're going to be breathing in for 4 counts and out for 4 counts, a little bit faster than your normal breathing pace. And by breathing faster, we're going to welcome a bit of stimulation and energy into our system. So take just 1 or 2 breaths to prepare yourself before we start this final practice. Wherever you're at in your breath, exhaling all together. So we can start all together by breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, still breathing through the nose, filling up the belly, and out through the nose, deflating the belly. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. 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 Breathe in, out, 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 and just go with the flow of your own breath. Keep that pace going. You can choose to make it a little bit faster if you want to speed up, bring some heat into the body. Maybe you want to slow it down. Maybe you want to welcome a bit of relaxation. If this is too much for you, listen to the intuition of your own body, the intuition of your own breath. So we keep these equal length, slightly fast breathing for just the last few minutes of our practice. Breathing deep into the belly, filling up and expanding, then exhaling, letting the breath go. Speed it up for our last few rounds. Wherever you're at, breathing in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. And start to make that breathing forceful. Out, in, out, in, out. 5 more. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Last one. In, out. And at the bottom, just let your breathing return to normal. Keep your eyes closed. And again, maybe take just this last moment to check in and notice, how do you feel? You notice any differences between the last practice and this one? You notice any differences between if we started this practice just 20 minutes ago and how you feel now? I want to close just by taking 3 big deep breaths together. So wherever you're at in your breath, exhaling, and take a big deep breath, filling up the belly, filling up the chest all the way to the top, and sigh it out. We'll do it 2 more times. Big breath in. Sigh it out. Last one. I want you to take the biggest breath you've taken all day. Fill up and let it go. So we slowly start to bring some movement back into the body. Might be wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingertips. Doing some circles with the wrist, doing some circles with the neck. Reaching your arms up over your head, stretching out, maybe looking behind you. Twisting the back, and then slowly, whenever you're ready, just blinking your eyes back open to the space around you. I realized that the chat might actually not be on for our group today, but this is where I would ask just to kind of share a little bit about how you're feeling. Notice any impact this practice might have had on you. And yeah, that's a really brief introduction to some different breathing exercises. And to wrap up just the last little bit of our time together, I want to talk a little bit more about the work that we do with balance in the corporate space and why it matters. Because we already took a look at how stress is affecting the people, our colleagues, and also the business impact that it has. But how does this constant stress that we all face, how does this manifest itself in the workplace? And what the research is finding is that employees are only spending about 2.8 hours a day on productive tasks. And there's definitely been times in my life where I can resonate with that when I was working at other companies. And what happens is when you're stressed all the time, you actually can't perform at your best. While it can be really great way to introduce some pressure to get things done, when you're stressed all the time, it puts you into the state of having the possibility to make more errors and have reduced focus and delayed decision making, where ultimately it manifests itself in health troubles, and that is increasing costs for business as well. And for businesses, it can be really powerful to invest more into the well-being of their employees. At Harvard, they found that investing into well-being programs has an ROI of $4 for every $1 spent, so essentially a 400% return. And of course, when you have a healthier workforce, you have better performance, higher job satisfaction, and most importantly, increased retention, keeping that talent that you have already in the company. And by investing into well-being, you can also reduce the amount of healthcare spending and overall health issues that your employees are taking, and reducing costs through cutting sick days. And this is something that's being shown from many places all over. This is from the European Business Review coming out quite recently. And companies that build these robust well-being programs have lower rates of burnout, higher morale, and better overall work performance.
Now, of course, breathwork is not for everyone. I like to believe it is for everyone, and this is something you can, at the workplace, incorporate in a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly cycle, so employees can really make it into a lasting habit. But at Balance, we also started offering other vitality services. For example, doing cold exposure in the form of an ice bath brought to your company, or doing a yoga session, gratitude journaling, recognizing what are the things that we are grateful for in our everyday life. Sound bath, creating physical resonances that also decrease your cortisol, your stress hormone, or just getting a nice 15-minute massage that helps you reset in the middle of the day. We also do nail board workshop, and through creativity, getting out of our heads into our bodies, we facilitate painting workshops also on site, and Pilates high-intensity trainings. These vitality days can be also a nice team building activity, I feel, but their real purpose is supporting mental and physical health, and also creating a positive company culture where actually well-being is prioritized. You can include this in your recruitment marketing initiatives, so also people who are looking to join your company see that it's culture where well-being is important. Now, what we've done now in the past 15 minutes is probably something that made you feel at ease, made you happy, put a smile on your face. But doing this as a one-off doesn't make a long-term consistent difference. Habits take time. According to research, it takes about 2 months or 66 days to form habits that stay with you for a while. And that's why we recommend doing these corporate breathing workshops, putting it on people's calendars, doing it together. So having that kind of healthy peer pressure, that if your colleagues are doing it as part of their integrated workday, then you're also more likely to do it. And that is the reinforcement that leads to real change. And that is what can actually prevent burnouts and have a positive return on investment. So in case what we just shared with Cole resonates with you, and you also want to share it with your colleagues, we invite you to take action. You can make an introduction either to your HR team, because they are the ones we usually collaborate with, by scanning this QR code. And actually, let me make a little bit of space so you can more easily access the QR code like this. This QR code on the right side leads to a simple email template that you can use to introduce us to your HR team so we can do a trial session. What we normally recommend doing is 3-4 pilot breathing workshops that focus on different topics like stress release, immune enhancement, productivity, focus, or sleep enhancement. And with that, your company can actually measure if there is interest from employees on regular, continuous attendance in long-term breathing workshops. And if you are yourself a HR or people team member, you can scan the QR code on the left and just book a 15-minute conversation with Cole or myself or someone from the team. So we can walk you through how we help you promote the breathing workshops. So we really, as a partner, help you ensure that people show up, they hear about it. And throughout the pilot, we also measure the impact with surveys. So we ask people, how likely are you to attend again? Which day of the week works best for you? What frequency you want to have this and how long you want to participate? And of course, measure how stressed they felt before the session or after the session. So you can also showcase to the rest of your leadership team that breathwork has a measurable impact on employee well-being. And with that, I want to leave you to that call to action, helping you incorporate this in your everyday life. We have a YouTube video available, and with this bit.ly link, you can access it. Or if you go on the streaming that you are watching right now and you scroll to our listed videos, you can practice this 7-8 minute breathing workshop that we showcase. And with that, I want to say a huge thanks to you for taking time out of your workday and to spend that on your own mental health. And I hope to see you at another time as well.
Yep. And I just, I'm adding a QR code to the video here because we thought there would be a chat where we could share the link. But if you scan that code, it'll take you to the video that we shared previously. And yeah, if you take away just one thing from today's session, it's that the breath is a tool that's always there with you, even if it's just taking one deep belly breath that can already make a big difference in your day. So yeah, remember that, and hope you take away some of these practices and slowly start to incorporate them into your daily life. Have a good mental health awareness day. Share something positive with the people around you in your life today. And yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Stay balanced.